picture the human nervous system for a second. You have your conscious brain, right? Which handles all the highly complex, reasoning tasks, like planning a meal or, I don't know, doing your taxes.
Sure.
But beneath that, you have your autonomic reflexes. So if your hand brushes against a hot pan, you pull it away instantly.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
Exactly. That signal doesn't travel all the way up to your conscious brain to be debated and processed. It just, the reflex happens locally in the spinal cord. Yeah. Zero latency. Because your physical safety completely depends on it.
That's actually a really striking parallel.
Right. Well, welcome to this week's Smart Home News Report, because we are watching that exact biological split happen in how we architect our houses.
We really are. I mean, we're looking at a deeply bifurcated market right now. Manufacturers are aggressively separating their hardware into these two distinct camps. You have the highly complex, cloud-dependent conscious brain, and then the hyper-reliable localized reflexes.
And from a user experience standpoint, it's just a massive shift in how we actually interact with our living spaces.
Yeah.
I mean, on one side, big tech platforms are pushing for these incredibly intelligent, omnipresent screens to run your everyday schedule.
Yeah, the brain.
Right. And on the flip side, the open source community is proving that when it comes to the actual, life-saving infrastructure of a home, you just cannot rely on the cloud.
No, absolutely not.
So as you look at upgrading your own setup this week, these developments force a really critical question. When you buy a new device, are you installing a brain or a reflex?
Which brings up some pretty severe implications for network traffic, user privacy, and of course, ecosystem lock-in.
Oh, major lock-in.
Because the protocol decisions you make for your kitchen today, well, they'll dictate the technical debt you're stuck with a decade from now.
Yeah. So let's start at the top with the brain in the face of the smart home. We have some significant news from Amazon and a highly anticipated roadmap leak from Apple.
Let's tackle Apple first.
Yeah, let's do it. For years, the community has debated when Apple would finally release a dedicated smart home hub with a screen, essentially an iPad permanently mounted to a speaker.
Right, the white whale of HomeKit.
Exactly. Well, a new report from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman indicates this HomePad device could launch as early as October.
And in hardware development cycles, October means the physical supply chains are already spinning up.
They are locked in. And the details Gurman leaked are fascinating for anyone heavily invested in HomeKit. It's going to feature a 7-inch square display, video chat capabilities, and localized security alerts.
Okay.
But the element that completely changes the user experience is the underlying software.
Yeah.
It is reportedly running a brand new operating system derived from tvOS.
tvOS, that's the real tell here.
Right, because you'd think they would just use iPadOS.
You would, but if they had used iPadOS, that implies a single-user, personalized tablet experience. iPadOS expects a single fingerprint or face.
Yeah, it's yours, it's not the house's.
Exactly. tvOS, by its very nature, is built for communal spaces. It's designed to sit in a living room and be operated by anyone in the household, managing multiple profiles seamlessly.
Which eliminates so much friction. Instead of shouting across a noisy room hoping a speaker understands your accent, you have this highly tactile visual command center. And it feels instantly familiar to anyone who owns an iPhone, with those grids of widgets and live camera feeds.
But the underlying engine is what matters most for the infrastructure here. The report indicates this hub will serve as the physical anchor for Apple's revamped Siri AI.
Right.
For years, Apple has treated the smart home as just a peripheral accessory to your iPhone. The phone was the center of your digital life.
Right, but a smart home can't rely on a hub that, leaves the house in your pocket every morning.
Exactly. It requires a permanent, fixed anchor that maintains constant awareness of the local network state.
Which transforms Siri from a glorified egg timer into an actual digital concierge for the house.
Yeah, it's a big step.
But while Apple is still in the rumor mill with a compact 7-inch screen, Amazon is actively trying to take over your entire wall right now.
Oh, the new Echo.
Yes, the Amazon Echo Show 21 is out right now, and it's actually currently heavily discounted at Best Buy and Home Depot for $319.99.
Which is an $80 price cut.
Yeah, $80 off.
Yeah.
And we are talking about a 21-inch screen here. It acts as a kitchen TV, a family calendar, and a video conferencing system equipped with a 13-megapixel auto-framing camera. So it tracks your movement while you move around the kitchen.
Visually, I mean, a 21-inch screen is a statement piece.
For sure.
But the physical footprint is really just a Trojan horse for the networking hardware hidden behind the glass.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the Echo Show 21, just like its smaller 15-inch sibling, is packed with dedicated radios. It is a full thread border router, a Zigbee coordinator, and a Matter controller all baked into one unit.
And this is where the strategy becomes so apparent. I mean, we don't need to rehash the definitions of Matter or Zigbee here. If you're building a smart home, you already know they represent the push for local brand agnostic communication.
Right.
But by stuffing all of those specific protocol controllers behind a massive kitchen screen, Amazon is making a very aggressive play to own your network's routing table.
Oh, absolutely. They want their hardware to be the traffic cop for every local ping in your house.
Exactly.
Because they're minimizing latency. When your hub has a physical Zigbee radio, it doesn't need to bounce a lighting command up to an AWS server in Virginia, over to the Philips Hue cloud, and then back down to your router.
Right, which takes forever in smart home time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The command stays entirely within the four walls of your house. It executes in milliseconds.
Which is great for speed, I agree. But I have a major issue with the hardware strategy here.
Let's hear it.
If I bolt a $300 21-inch screen directly to my drywall, I am deeply locking myself into Amazon's user interface.
Yeah.
I mean, Matter was supposed to free us from ecosystem lock-in, right? But if the physical interface for my entire house is branded by Amazon, I am still trapped in their walled garden for the actual daily interaction.
That is the ultimate friction point of the Matter era. The plumbing beneath the walls, the bulbs, the sensors, the smart plugs, they're open and interchangeable. Matter guarantees they will listen to whatever hub you tell them to.
Right.
But the glass you touch, the voice assistant you speak to, that is fiercely proprietary. You're buying into a permanent interface. The protocols are open, but the user experience is a walled garden.
Yeah, exactly. If I decide I prefer Apple's new HomePad next year, I have to literally patch drywall to switch my command center.
It's a huge commitment.
It really is. And if you're trying to figure out which devices actually fit your setup, smarthomecompared.com can help you compare smart home products by ecosystem, features, compatibility, and integrations before you buy.
Which is a vital step in the planning phase.
Yeah, because you need to know if the underlying protocols of the hardware you already own are actually going to surface correctly on a giant Amazon display, or if you're just better off waiting for Apple's solution.
Right, because the hardware is only half the equation. The software layer dictating how these ecosystems actually route commands is undergoing a massive shift, which actually leads directly into Amazon's other major announcement this week.
Oh, the Alexa Plus AI update.
Yes.
This is currently in developer preview, and it fundamentally changes how we speak to our homes. So Amazon is rolling out the ability for Alexa to handle ambiguous, multi-conditional instructions.
The example they provided is just wild.
It is. You walk up to your Echo and say, my kid's soccer jersey could use a deep clean, but the tag says cold wash only.
Just consider the semantic leap happening there. There is no explicit trigger word. There is no defined device name.
Right.
There is no direct command to activate a specific state.
No. I mean, 10 years ago, you had to say, turn on Bosch washer to state cold. Now you are just stating a problem out loud.
It acts much like an expediter in a busy restaurant kitchen. You know, a customer might order a dish with a vague allergy request.
Yeah.
And the expediter has to interpret that vague intent, break it down into actionable constraints, and route specific commands to the grill station, the fry station, and the prep station.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
So Alexa Plus takes the vague phrase, deep clean, which usually implies hot water, cross-references it with your explicit constraint of cold wash only, checks your local network for a supported smart appliance, whether that's Whirlpool or LG Queries, that specific manufacturer's API for its available cycles, and remotely selects the optimal wash setting without you ever touching a dial.
That is the ultimate convenience layer. But earlier we talked about the difference between the conscious brain and the reflex.
Yes.
To do that kind of semantic heavy lifting, Alexa has to use an immense amount of computational power, a large language model that can logically deduce the thermal requirements of a muddy soccer jersey that cannot run locally on the processor inside a kitchen speaker.
No, it is entirely tethered to the cloud. And that is the vulnerability.
Yeah.
If your internet service provider experiences an outage, your expediter goes on strike. The semantic engine sits in a server farm hundreds of miles away. Without an active internet connection, that massive 21-inch screen loses its ability to reason.
It's just a mirror at that point.
Pretty much. In many cloud-dependent setups, you wouldn't even be able to turn on your kitchen lights with a voice command if your fiber connection drops.
Which is so frustrating.
Yeah.
Now, you can afford to wait 3 seconds for a cloud ping to figure out how to wash your jersey, right? You can tolerate the cloud going down if it just means your laundry is delayed.
Sure.
But what happens when you cannot afford a single millisecond of delay? This brings us to the infrastructure layer, and what is easily the most important life safety news in the smart home space this week.
Yeah, we are shifting entirely from convenience to structural integrity here.
Exactly. So a company called FireAvert has officially achieved Works with Home Assistant certification.
This is huge.
It is. And for those unaware, FireAvert was founded by Peter Thorpe, a former firefighter, and for 2 decades he responded to the exact same tragedy. You know, someone leaves a pan of oil on the stove, they run, they answer the door, they get distracted, and the kitchen goes up in smoke.
Such a common story.
Right. And he realized that relying on a cloud notification to tell your phone that your house is on fire is useless. You need a localized reflex.
And the mechanical design of their shutoff device is brilliant.
It really is, because it leverages the hardware you already have. Thorpe noticed that smoke builds up heavily before a flame actually ignites.
Right, the smoke comes first.
Yeah. The standard smoke alarm in your hallway will start screaming minutes before the fire catches. So FireAvert's hardware sits physically in line with your appliance's power source, and it utilizes an acoustic sensor to constantly listen for the specific piercing frequency of a standard smoke detector.
That's so smart.
When it hears that sound, it immediately physically cuts the power or the gas to the stove. It severs the heat at the source before combustion can even happen. Jason Tolbert from FireAvert summed it up perfectly. He said, "Smart homes shouldn't just be convenient, they should help keep families safer too."
And the acoustic trigger is the localized reflex there. But why we are discussing it today is their adoption of the Z-Wave protocol for their newest smart shutoffs, and of course, their integration with Home Assistant.
Right.
And this requires looking at why Z-Wave is uniquely suited for a life safety device compared to, say, Wi-Fi.
It really comes down to frequency congestion, doesn't it?
Exactly. Most smart plugs and bulbs crowd onto your home's 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi band. That is the exact same frequency your neighbor's router, your microwave, and your Bluetooth headphones are using.
It is a chaotic, noisy highway.
Very noisy. Z-Wave, on the other hand, operates on the sub-gigahertz spectrum around 900 megahertz. It's like having a dedicated private emergency lane that completely bypasses the Wi-Fi router.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the lower frequency punches through drywall and concrete, much better than Wi-Fi. Furthermore, because Z-Wave is a mesh network, every hardwired device you add strengthens the routing paths. It is incredibly resilient.
So even if your internet is down or your main Wi-Fi router is unplugged, the Z-Wave mesh is still locally active.
Correct.
But this brings up a terrifying scenario that we have to address.
Uh-oh.
Well, Home Assistant is a brilliant open source platform, but it is built for tinkerers. You know, people are constantly writing custom YAML code, tweaking automations, pushing updates.
Sure.
Does integrating a literal life safety shutoff valve into an open source platform introduce an unacceptable risk? I mean, what if a user writes a bad automation that accidentally triggers a gas valve to open during a server reboot?
Yeah, as someone who evaluates system architectures, that was my immediate concern too.
Right.
But analyzing the Works with Home Assistant certification process puts that fear to rest. The integration is strictly unidirectional regarding the safety override.
Okay, explain that.
So the Home Assistant in-house team rigorously validated these units using their standard green hub and the official Connect ZWA2 adapter. The Z-Wave radio allows Home Assistant to monitor the state of the stove, and it allows you to build secondary automations, like, say, forcing all the lights in the house to turn red if the stove shuts off.
Okay, that's a cool automation.
It is, but the physical acoustic safety cutoff is hardwired and isolated. The smart home platform cannot override the acoustic failsafe, and it cannot remotely engage the gas or 240-volt power if the local hardware has tripped.
Ah, okay. So it isolates the reflex from the conscious brain.
Precisely.
The brain can know that the hand pulled away from the stove, but the brain cannot force the hand to stay on the burner.
Exactly.
The real-world impact of this is just profound. Think about caring for aging relatives. If you have a parent with early-stage dementia who still insists on cooking, the anxiety of did they leave the burner on is paralyzing.
Oh, it's a huge burden.
It is. And FireAvert makes pass-through units for 240-volt electric stoves, natural gas valves, and even standard 120-volt units for microwaves and toaster ovens. You unplug the stove from the wall, plug it into the fire vert, and plug the fire vert into the wall.
So simple.
Yeah, and there are no batteries to change. They are tested to strict CSA and UL electrical safety standards, and they have a lifetime warranty. It is pure structural peace of mind.
Because you demand sub-gigahertz local-only communication for a stove shutoff, because the stakes are your life and your property, you have to architect the system assuming the cloud will fail.
Which is heavy but necessary. However, a house isn't just a fortress, right?
No, thankfully not.
It's also where we relax, entertain, and express ourselves. We don't always need military-grade infrastructure. Sometimes we make deliberate trade-offs just to make a space look incredible.
Yes. Deliberate architecture means knowing when it is perfectly acceptable to use that noisy Wi-Fi highway.
Exactly. And this week, adding high-end aesthetics to your space is significantly cheaper than usual. Nanoleaf is running a massive back-to-school sale on their Blocks Combo XL Smarter Kit.
Okay, what's the deal?
So the normal retail price is $249.99, but it is currently knocked down to $99.99.
Wow. In the modular lighting space, getting a starter kit with that kind of physical footprint under $100 is highly unusual.
It's more than 50% off for a premium lighting setup.
Yeah.
But the physical utility of this kit is what really stands out to me. It isn't just, flat LED panels glued to drywall.
What else does it do?
The Blocks Combo XL includes 9 edge-to-edge color-changing panels, but it integrates physical storage into the lighting matrix.
Storage.
Yeah. It comes with a low-profile shelf capable of holding 3.3 pounds and a pegboard panel that can hold up to 6.6 pounds. So you build this glowing, animated geometric pattern on your wall, but it doubles as functional storage for your gaming controllers, your over-ear headphones, or like small decorative plants.
That's actually really clever. But look at the protocol choice here. Nanoleaf relies entirely on 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and it integrates heavily with cloud-based assistants like Google Home and Amazon Alexa.
Oh, they lean hard into the cloud. The app features what they call AI magic scenes. You type a descriptive phrase like neon cyberpunk alley or deep ocean bioluminescence, and their cloud servers generate a custom color palette and animation sequence, beaming it down to the panels on your wall.
That's a lot of data moving back and forth.
It is. They also have an intuitive paint tool that lets you tap specific panels on your phone screen to assign localized colors. Plus, they support screen mirroring, so the panels pulse and shift colors to match whatever movie or game you are running on your PC.
So it's very interactive.
Very. It puts incredibly sophisticated ambient lighting design within everyone's reach. You don't need to know how to code DMX lighting arrays to make your office look stunning.
And that cloud dependency is a perfectly acceptable trade-off for this specific use case. I mean, if Amazon Web Services experiences a regional outage or your local Wi-Fi router drops a packet, the worst-case scenario is that your gaming room lighting doesn't sync perfectly to your music for a few minutes.
Yeah, nobody's house is burning down.
Right. It is an aesthetic inconvenience. It is not a structural failure. By consciously choosing when to deploy local sub-gigahertz Z-Wave for safety and when to utilize high-bandwidth, cloud-connected Wi-Fi for aesthetics, you are building a resilient ecosystem.
Which perfectly distills the overarching lesson from all of our sources this week. The smart home is no longer a monolithic concept.
No, it's really not.
It has evolved into two distinct necessary layers. We have the convenience layer, characterized by Apple's communal tvOS interface and Amazon's semantic reasoning, which relies on immense cloud power to handle the complexities of our daily lives. And beneath that, we have the vital infrastructure layer like Home Assistant and FireVert, which relies on localized hardwired reflexes to protect us when the cloud inevitably fails. Understanding how to seamlessly blend those two layers is the entire craft of building a modern smart home.
And it forces us to look ahead at where these two layers intersect. We are building systems that logically interpret our ambiguous commands and autonomously shut down physical hazards before a fire even ignites.
Yeah.
This introduces a fascinating liability question that the industry hasn't solved yet.
Oh. Like what?
As our homes transition from tools we manually operate into autonomous entities that manage our safety, who assumes the legal liability when the home makes the wrong choice?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If an AI misinterprets a sensor reading, hallucinates an intent, and decides not to shut off a water main during a leak because it assumed you were just filling a pool, who is at fault for the flood damage? The homeowner, the hardware manufacturer, or the open source protocol?
That is a staggering implication for home insurance over the next decade. If the house makes the call, the house holds the liability. We will definitely be tracking how the industry handles that.
Absolutely.
Well, that wraps up this week's deep dive into the smart home landscape. If you found this weekly report useful in planning your own home's architecture, please leave a rating and a comment wherever you are listening right now. It is the best way to help other enthusiasts discover the show so they can build smarter, safer homes alongside us. Until next time, make sure your infrastructure is bulletproof before you start worrying about the color of your lights. Catch you next week.